If you think Tampa's dangerous for tourists, you should see what crawls out after midnight for us cops. People think the scariest thing in this city is the nightlife, or the gators in the drainage canals. They tell stories about spring breakers on 7-day benders, or the thunder rolling in from the bay, or the heat that presses so close it feels like a second skin. But those things are just set dressing. The real stories, they never make the morning news. They hide just below the surface. Some nights, they crawl up to say hello. Let me set the scene. You're sitting in your cruiser, badge on your chest, radio hissing static. You expect noise calls about break-ins, drunks staggering into traffic, the pulse of hip-hop clubs draining onto Dale Mabry at 3 a.m. That's the normal Tampa the Tampa tourists are warned about. But then there are the other nights, the ones you don't talk about at roll call. Nights where the city feels hollowed out, and shadows slip differently along the sidewalk. Nights where the air gets so heavy you wonder if you've wandered into a different world. I know most of you listening are here for blood and guts, for stories about violence and horror in the everyday. I'll give you plenty of that. But these aren't just stories, they're confessions. You might feel safer thinking it's just fiction. I used to think that, too. That changed the day I heard a transmission over the radio, stuttering soft as a dying snake. Unit 43, respond. Unit 43, are you? Then dead air. No clicks, no call sign, just the suffocating silence of something listening in on our frequency. That was the first time I realized even cops aren't always the apex predators in Tampa. There are cases I should never speak about, cases too twisted for daylight, cases that kept me watching my own shadow. But tonight, for reasons I can't explain, I'm breaking the code. Maybe I just want someone else to bear the weight. Or maybe it's because those things, those stories, don't. Like being locked away forever. So sit back. I'll tell you what happens after the midnight shift, the stories you won't find in any city report. And trust me, each one is worse than the last. People outside the job think policing is simple. Write the reports, chase the bad guys, go home with a busted lunchbox and 100 stories about drunks and domestic calls. And sure, a lot of nights, that's the truth. You run traffic stops and wonder when the pay raises are coming. You shoot glances at your partner, trading the same old jokes to hide how tired you both are. There's a rhythm to it, a layer of sarcasm so thick it could stop a bullet. Like at briefing, the sergeant reading off the stats for the week, half the guys doodling or rolling their eyes, someone making wisecracks about the Lightning losing again. That's our shield, cynicism and gallows humor, worn like body armor. But everyone knows there's another side to this city. Ask around long enough and you'll hear about odd calls, ones that don't hit the scanners or ever make it into any official report. You might notice a name quietly scrubbed from the roster, or a cruiser left abandoned, its windows fogged up from the inside. There's a code among Tampa cops. Don't ask about calls after midnight at the edges of town. Don't ask about the squad car left upside down on Gandhi, with no blood inside and no officer ever found. And whatever you do, don't ask about code 347. That's the one the rookies joke about until you see a veteran's expression go flat and they quietly leave the room. People have their own names for it. We call it the veil or the thin blue line between worlds. It's what we say when the hair on your neck rises and the radios start spitting static, when you're not entirely sure you're answering a call from this reality. Some nights, the city seems to shift and you start to question if the crime behind that midnight bodega is even human. There's a reason no one likes pulling the graveyard shift alone. I guess what I'm saying is, policing in Tampa isn't just about keeping the peace, it's about treading the edge of something much older and meaner than the world you see on a postcard. Some calls you just don't come back from. And every cop here knows, even if we don't talk about it, that some missing officers are gone in ways the pension board could never explain. I remember the first time the mangroves called my name. It was late August, heat thick as a wool blanket, and somebody up at the precinct decided I was the lucky one for missing persons detail. Bayside stretch, just before the Causeway docks, bait shops, mangroves so close they scraped the side of your car if you weren't careful. In daylight, the calls out there were almost comforting in their normalcy. You get your run of lost fishermen, teens trying to impress each other by lighting up joints or carving curses into dock posts. You know, the usual Tampa breed of trouble, the kind you can clean up with a stern warning and a flashlight sweep. Sometimes we joke about gators running off with someone's wallet or a kayak. If you find a croc wearing Ray-Bans, Sergeant, he belongs to me. Ramirez would always say. He was my partner for that shift, an old-school Tampa guy, blue-collar all the way, the kind of man who'd pour cheap whiskey on a bee sting and call it medicine. This case started like any other, supposed late-night calls about people vanishing in the marsh. One at a time at first, hiker here, fishermen there, then 3 in a week. That's when the brass started to worry. They sent us out mid-morning, radios chirping, the sun drawing thick clouds of mosquitoes off the water. All we found were muddy boot prints, a fishing rod, plastic wrappers, and some torn cloth snagged on a branch. Probably just junkies getting lost. I remember saying, scribbling in my notepad. Ramirez snorted, spit into the mud, and said, "Were they sobered up, saw life, and ran the other way?" Gallows humor. That's how you keep fear at bay. It was the night search that broke the illusion. See, the sun means safety in Tampa. At night, the mangroves become a labyrinth. Still, we had a job to do. It was the third night, humidity wrapped tight as a noose, when the first radio glitch crept in. Static, then a voice, but the words were twisted, like someone trying to copy us in reverse. Unit 4, reversal, under, route. Ramirez frowned, tapped the mic. Say again, dispatch. Silence, broken by a slow, wet laugh that I swear came from right behind me. Foolish as it sounds, we both turned, guns half drawn, shining our flashlights into a green-black wall of tangled roots and stagnant water. In the beams, for just a second, we saw shapes impossibly tall, jointed wrong, bending where knees shouldn't bend at all. Shadows hunched low, moving, not walking, crawling in a way that made my skin crinkle cold under the sweat. Probably raccoons, Ramirez whispered, trying to sound hard, but his eyes weren't on me. The air smelled wrong, sweet and rotten, like flowers blooming out of a corpse. We pressed forward, boots sucking through muck, breath ragged. I tried the radio again, got snippets of something that sounded like my own voice, just off. 4-3, come, edge, my name, drawn out. Then, leave. Then more laughter, warping into a rasp. I'll never know if it was meant for me or for someone else caught under the mud. We found a boot half buried at the edge of the channel. Stamped on the inside, Ramirez. "Man, didn't you wear both tonight?" I asked, trying for another joke, but all the humor had drained out of me. Ramirez stepped back, nearly fell, and pointed. Something small and pale glistened inside the boot, like a fingertip or a piece of shell. "Let's go," he said, shaking now, sweat hissing off him. That was when the reeds parted. "I won't dress it up." I saw a head rise. Wrong shape, too smooth, with eyes that looked like fish scales and lips moving in reverse. It opened its mouth and out came a voice. Perfect mimicry of Ramirez, calling for help, slow and backwards. I lost the thread after that. Gun drawn, boots lost, I staggered through thick roots, thorns slicing my arms. I heard splashing, then silence, then God Help Me, a song, made of hundreds of whispers. Ramirez was gone. I found myself back at the dock, feet bleeding, uniform plastered to me with mud, and something sticky I never could get clean. They never found Ramirez. Not officially. We never found his left boot, or what was inside it. The report said, officer fell into the channel. But the swamp took more than that: my sleep, my nerve, and some deeper part of me that got left behind with the boot and the whispering reeds. To this day, sometimes, if I drive down Bayside at night, I swear I hear Ramirez's laugh on the wind. Or maybe it's the thing that learned how to wear his face. All I know is, Tampa's mangroves don't forget. And neither do I. The thing about Florida storms is that they don't ask permission. One second it's summer hot, sticky, the kind of air you wear like a damp shirt, and the next, the sky splits open. Thunder that shakes the glass, rain that drowns out your own breathing. On nights like that, you pray to get stuck writing paperwork in the safety of the squad room. But the job never cares about your prayers. This was 2 years before the mangroves took Ramirez. I was still new enough to think bad weather could make a night safer, keep people inside, keep the real trouble away. I was wrong. It was a Tuesday, around 2:05 a.m., when our circuit started buzzing with a 911 hang-up out near the old Harbolite motel. Every Tampa cop knows that address, mostly from the files. Boarded up, for stories sinking into the mud, windows painted over with years of graffiti and mold. You could see it from the highway, leaning like a drunk with nowhere left to fall. I tried to radio dispatch before heading out. Unit 43 en route to Harbolite Motel, possible welfare check. Static. Rain pounded. The windshield so hard it looked like the whole world was made of bad reception. Suddenly, the radio blurted to life, the volume spiking a notch by itself. Unit 43, respond. Unit 43, my name, clear as a bell, but it was dispatch's voice, Rebecca's. Only problem was, I knew Becky had traded the night shift with Simmons. She shouldn't have even been near the board. I listened. On the fourth repeat, her voice skipped almost like a stuck record. Unit 43, respo then. Soft as a whisper, layered under the static. Come inside. And with that, the radio died again, screen flickering, battery full, but every frequency flatlined. Business as usual might have been a call for backup, but the Harbolite was dead quiet. No lights in the windows. Rain like bullets. I popped the hood of my raincoat, stepped out, and immediately regretted leaving the car. Inside the cruiser, it was safe, warm air humming, the faint familiarity of old coffee and police cologne. But out there, the world was primal. Water up to my ankles, shoes squelching. I kept my hand on my flashlight like it was a weapon. The lobby door hung by a hinge. The linoleum inside curled up at the edges like dead leaves. My boots echoed in perfect time with the rolls of distant thunder, every step sending up the stink of rot and pesticide. I shined my light around the old gumball machine by the desk covered in hairline cracks, spiderwebs blossoming from every corner. Rainwater pooled where the front desk should be, glimmering and black. The radio hissed again. 4-3, you coming in or not? This time, the voice wasn't Becky's. It was deeper familiar, but pitched wrong, like somebody imitating a tape and pressing down on the fast forward just enough to twist it. Room 2, then nothing. I spun in a slow circle, the light dancing across spray paint and ruins. Something moved at the edge of my vision, just a shadow, gone before my brain could file the details. The second floor was worse. The stairs groaned, every step like a promise. Rain battered the broken windows, the rhythm sometimes so harsh it sounded almost organized, like Morse code. I reached room 213. The numbers, hanging on by rusted screws, looked freshly cleaned. It didn't make sense. I don't blame people who tune out here, who say, that's just nerves, just a rundown motel, and too much time alone. But I'd stake my pension on what happened next. I knocked. Silence. Then, the door creaked by itself. It opened inward, heavy and slow, and a sickly draft puffed into the hallway. Darkness so thick it felt heavy on my skin. My flashlight flickered, spat out, and came back on low, beam jittering in pulses with the storm outside. And in the lightning, for a single flicker, I saw her, someone sitting on the edge of the mattress, head down, hair hanging in wet ropes. I tried to speak, but my tongue stuck to my teeth. Do you need help, ma'am? My voice didn't sound like my own. She lifted her head, but her eyes were black as the rain outside, and her mouth moved in time with the next roll of static on the radio. The shadows behind her began to move, stretching longer, pulling away from the walls instead of clinging to them. I heard a dozen voices, all whispering in reverse, just out of sync with reality. The radio on my shoulder sparked, and Becky's voice, at least, the illusion of it, said, "You shouldn't be here." The air was so cold it bit. The woman on the bed vanished, just blinked out, like a projection someone switched off. The shadows collapsed, and something at the edge of the room shuffled forward on hands that made no noise at all. I staggered back, slammed into the door, and the hallway behind me was empty, save for a wet trail leading down the stairs. Somehow, against sense, I found myself running back out into the storm, head pounding, boots slipping, strobe light after lightning flash. The lobby's gumball machine was shattered now, candy spilled like teeth across the floor. The rain felt almost warm after the ice in that room. I never told anyone exactly what happened in room 213. If you hang around rookies, ask them about that number, they'll joke about ghosts with knives, or the time dispatch forgot to respond to a robbery there. But if you press them, if you really ask, you'll see fear dust their eyes. When I got back to my car, the seats were soaked like someone else had been sitting there, waiting for me. The radio stayed dead for the rest of my shift. But sometimes, on stormy nights, I hear Becky's voice in the static, calling my name in the tone she only ever used when she wanted me to stay safe. People say that nothing haunts the Harbolite but memories, but I still drive the long way around that exit. Truth is, I survived that night, but something else did too. Something that follows you home, waiting, silent, just on the other side of dead air. I know some of you old-timers in the comments are probably shaking your heads, thinking, he's finally cracked. Maybe you're right. Still, I appreciate the regulars. You know who you are, the ones who've stuck around since my first story about the Green Bench stalker, or the ones who keep asking if I'll ever go back to that burned cruiser near Ybor. For the record, the cruiser was still smoldering when I got there, and no, I'm not talking about it tonight. Some scars are fresher than others. I've read the emails, I've seen the DMs, the wild theories you all cook up at 3 a.m. Some of you piece together more than the department's best. Was the woman at Harbolite the same as the shadow on 7th? Why do so many cases hit dead ends in District 5? Answers are rare. Trust me, Tampa likes to keep her secrets buried deeper than the foundations of the old city jail. Look, I can't promise explanations. A lot of what happens just leaves traces, a half-baked report, a corrupted dashcam clip, a case file that disappears overnight. No matter how many times I file a request, some folders just go missing, names redacted, whole weeks of bodycam footage wiped. If you're the type who likes a challenge, maybe you can stitch together what the brass keeps trying to erase. If so, let me know in the comments. Tell me which threads you're following, which ones I've left dangling on purpose. Who knows? Maybe you've heard something worse. Or maybe you are worse. Nobody gets through the graveyard shifts without a story or two that shouldn't be told. And yeah, before you ask, there's a story I can't share yet. I know you're dying for it. Give it time. Sometimes what's waiting out there needs to ripen in the dark before it shows its face. Until then, keep your questions coming. I'm listening. Never trust your own reflection after this call. I learned that the hard way at 3:45 on Dale Mabry, in a strip mall bright enough to fry an egg on its sidewalk at midnight. You'd think nothing could go wrong with that much security lighting, but let me tell you, sometimes it just throws bigger, meaner shadows. Tampa at 3 a.m. is a circus. Half the city is wide awake, and the other half is either running from something or running toward it. Dispatch rings in. Noise complaint, possible break-in, Neon Fox strip mall, corner of Dale Mabry and Cypress. I remember groaning, blinker clicking as I turned, muttering, "This'll be some poor minimum wage kid arguing with a vape thief." I radioed back, "Copy that. If you're lucky, I'll bring you a donut, Tracy." Tracy, dispatched that night, shot back, "Bring me something that isn't fried, and I'll believe you've turned over a new leaf." It was pouring rain, the kind that bounces 3 feet off the concrete and soaks your socks before you hit the curb. Half the storefronts were empty, glass windows streaked with rain and neon glare. In the middle, just under a flickering pink sign, stood the Neon Fox, a late-night snack shop moonlighting as an after-party supplies depot. Shapes moved behind the glass as I approached, slow and jerky, like old film run backward. I told myself it was probably just mannequins. Or maybe Tampa Mannequin Challenge 2022. I joked to Tracy over the radio, trying to keep the mood light. Inside the shop, everything was brighter than day. Rows of energy drinks, shelves stacked with instant noodles and overpriced souvenirs. But the sense of safety stopped at the threshold. The lights flickered, shuddering more than they should have with state-of-the-art wiring. At the back of the store, a woman stood perfectly still, frozen, eyes wide and unblinking. Behind her, a mannequin in a cheap Fox mascot costume, arm outstretched, its plastic smile twisted into something close to hunger. "Ma'am," I called, my voice echoing off the glass, weirdly muted. She didn't move, didn't blink. Just tight breaths and that 1,000-yard stare, not at me, but at the glass behind the register. I stepped closer, ignoring the candy-colored light that pulsed brighter and then sucked itself away, turning the whole place acid green. That's when I caught my reflection in the window, except it wasn't mine exactly. Same uniform, but skin too pale, jaw too wide. And behind that version of me, I saw another shadow rise tall, jointed wrong, blushing neon where the eyes should be. I spun around, heart lurching, but nothing there. "Tracy, we're gonna need backup," I said, just loud enough for the mic to catch. While I waited for her response, I photographed the scene in my mind, the woman carved in marble, fear, the mannequin's arms stretched out almost protectively, and those unsteady, shifting lights spelling something across the wall. It kept flickering, spelling something I couldn't read in any alphabet I recognized. Static. Then Tracy's voice, half hidden by what sounded like a child's laughter. "Say again, 4-3?" The words warped, like someone else was mouthing them at her side. I snapped and clapped, trying to break the woman out of whatever fugue she was in. Her eyes finally moved, looking straight at me. "Don't let it in the glass," she whispered, voice shredded raw. "If you see it, don't look twice. It's already here." "What's already here?" I asked, but she just shuddered and wouldn't meet my eyes. I turned to the register, tugging at my belt, one hand on my sidearm, and looked for any sign of a break-in. But the till was untouched. No footprints except mine, hers, and those mannequin feet, 3 sets, not 2. My radio hissed again, and through the burst of static, a voice that sounded like both Tracy and me crackled out. "Come closer. Let's see what you really are." Then, every light in the place popped, all at once a deep, electrical thud that made my teeth ache. The neon flickered to blazing purple, spelling something fast, some word I almost recognized for just a breath. The store windows shimmered, and for a split second, every pane was filled with screaming faces, mine, Tracy's, the woman's, all caught in silent, open-mouthed terror. I swept the beam of my pocket flashlight around and saw a movement in the glass cooler doors, not a reflection, exactly, but something using my shape to pace behind the chips. I have never felt fear crawl so slowly up my spine. The woman began to cry, soundless and shaking, eyes glued to the floor. I grabbed her arm, careful but insistent, and dragged her out as quickly as I could. She stumbled, hands still covering her eyes even as we hit the rain and the normal, ugly glare of streetlights outside. Outside, things snapped back to reality. The rain was thick and heavy, carrying away that weird electric taste. I put her in my cruiser, asked her name. She just said, "Don't call tonight. Please. If it sees you leave, it follows." I left my number anyway. She never answered my calls, but every few weeks I get a phone call in the middle of the night, no ID, just heavy breathing and static, sometimes a snippet. That sounds like Tracy or like me. I reported it up the chain, wrote it up as possible mental health crisis. But that strip mall burned down the very next night. Official report blamed faulty wiring, but I know what I saw. The glass didn't melt in the fire. They boarded it up, and nobody rebuilt. Maybe it's another Tampa legend, a warning never to stare too long at your own reflection in the dead of night, when the neon lights twitch and the air hums with the wrong frequency. Or maybe, if you ever drive past that old lot, you'll catch a glimpse of something behind your eyes, waving you in for just one more look. Either way, trust me, you won't want to answer the phone if it rings after midnight. If you're still here, I know you've noticed the patterns. It's impossible not to connect the dots when you've spent too many years staring at case files that never add up, missing persons reports that smell like déjà vu, and dispatch transcripts that look more like puzzles than paperwork. At first, you think it's just Tampa being Tampa, a wild city built on old bones and hotter tempers. But after enough midnight calls and sideways glances in the break room, you realize there's a different kind of map under this one, marked by absences and stains you can't scrub away. Old-timers will tell you every city has ghosts, but Tampa's got blueprints for theirs. Even off-duty, I find myself sketching out locations on napkins while sipping coffee that tastes like burnt pennies. Look back far enough, and you'll see the same addresses coming up over and over. The Harbolite Motel, the strip malls off Dale Mabry, the mangroves by the bay, cross-reference with missing persons, and it's like a busted constellation connecting every horror story nobody put in the newspaper. Then you factor in the symbols, spray painted on walls, scratched into door frames, carved under benches on Bayshore, a spiral with 5 points, a fox with 2 tails, a door drawn open but never closed. And it's not just the symbols. There are files in the evidence basement, files I wasn't supposed to see marked with case numbers that don't fit our system. Whole folders about code 347 calls, always inconclusive, always stopped at the same line. Subject not located. Further investigation discouraged by Superior. Whenever I tried to revisit any of them, the logs would vanish, or Sergeant Vasquez would give me that warning look, like I was fishing in the wrong river during gator season. It goes deeper. I've heard stories from retirees who claim Tampa city planners redrew neighborhoods in the 70s, not for zoning or safety, but to break up a pattern. Like the streets themselves had to be rearranged every few decades, always just after a spike in disappearances or unexplained fires. And every decade, It's the same streets, the same alleys, the same corners where you can feel your skin prickle for no apparent reason. Coincidence? Or are we walking circles around something ancient that wants to be found? Funny how the spiral never fully closes, one retired detective told me, tapping his cane against a map, eyes hooded. Always leaves a little gap, like an open door. Sometimes I catch glimpses of city emails, coded language about containment districts, and acceptable unexplained loss. It chills the blood. Protect the city, sure, but from what? Or who? Maybe I've been at this too long. But lately, I get the sense someone's paying attention to my attention. Unmarked cars outside my complex, the wrong number calls at odd hours, my own notes gone missing. I'm not the only one who's noticed the pattern. The question is, am I the next dot on someone else's map if you start seeing the same signs? If you've got your own theories, let me know. Just know there are things in Tampa's foundation that don't want to be recognized. And trust me, they know when you're looking for them. Most nights, the only things moving under Bayshore are rats, water, and the city's leftover secrets. Ask any cop who's had the graveyard shift. You'll get stories about late-night foot chases, prank calls of things hissing in the drains, or the occasional escape artist trying to outfox the badge by ducking into the stormwater system. Honestly, chasing someone into the tunnels was just another weird Tampa night for the first 100 feet, anyway. This one started with a car break-in alarm tripped along Bayshore's fancier stretch. Figured it'd be a drunk kid, maybe a pro looking for quick cash. I rolled up, headlights cutting through the steam rising off the sidewalk after rain. Door ajar, glove box ransacked, footprints tracking mud straight to the curb and then vanishing. That's when I heard running a slap of shoes and sharp, gulping breaths and turned just in time to see a dark shape slip through a loose grate at the sidewalk's edge. Unit 4-3 in pursuit, suspect heading, Storm Tunnel, north of Bay to Bay. I didn't even finish before the radio fizzed out, a long cord of feedback that ticked my nerves raw. Another car's lights bounced behind me. Officer Chun, always 3 steps faster than her years should allow. She flashed a wild-eyed grin as we ducked together. Who breaks into a Beamer just to run into a sewer? She huffed, voice echoing sharp and hollow. The air changed fast inside, damp first, then colder, heavy, thick with a metallic tang. Our headlamps picked up crumbling stone, slick with algae and water scum. Graffiti tags half faded into ancient ruins. We hustled deeper, trading banter because that's how you keep panic at bay. Last one to the guy buys Wawa. Chin whispered, gun drawn half for show, half because the dark makes you paranoid. Deeper still, and the echoes got weird. Not just our feet, but the suggestion of something else pacing us. A clacking like animal claws, or maybe just water drops. The tunnel branched left, curved toward a whisper of outside air. Right dropped deeper. Think he'd go for the light or the dark? I asked. Chin shook her head. He's not here anymore. No bravado in her tone now. Our radios were dead as granite red light. No signal, just a faint rhythmic pulse that didn't match our heartbeats. Then, a distant wail, not human, but not animal either, rolled through the pipes. I couldn't help but freeze, looking back at Chun. Sweat glimmered on her jaw despite the cold. Go, she mouthed, voice a croak. We pressed deeper, our breaths clouding the beams. The walls on the right side were etched with strange spirals, not fresh graffiti but old, deep scorings in the concrete, like claws, or maybe something even older had dragged metal down the length of the passage. This is a dead end, Chen whispered, shining light ahead. Mist floated up from a standing pool, the water black as pitch. That's when something moved at the very edge of our sight, long, jointed, fast and low. Chen shouted, "Stop!" Tampa PD. Her voice broke halfway through. A shape darted, too big and wrong for a person, slipping through a gap barely wide enough for a child. Suddenly, the tunnel didn't feel empty. The air thickened, clogged with the sour heat of breath that wasn't ours. The water rippled as if dozens of things were circling just out of sight. I heard a scraping, claws on stone, then a rush behind me, nothing when I spun, but Chun started panicking, backing away, gun trembling. "Did you see its face?" she whispered. I lied and said I hadn't. Saw enough of its silhouette, arms too long, fingers scraping the ceiling, eyes that blinked sideways. We tried to turn back. Every echo was heavier, every shadow sticking to our boots. Then the labyrinth started to change. Corners that didn't exist on the city blueprints. Passageways pinched and twisted, graffiti giving way to old symbols I knew too well, spirals, open doors, tally marks gouged in sets of 5, each cross out deeper than the last. Chin started to cry, silent. "Are we moving in circles?" she choked out. My torch flickered, then Chin's. We ran, no dignity left. Just raw animal fear, skidding on moss, sometimes shoulder to shoulder, sometimes feeling the brush of something cold slip past and almost touch us. The sound behind us swelled. A chittering, a chorus of voices almost like children, repeating our names in a high, delighted harmony. We found a ladder by accident. Rust flaked all over it up into a utility shed that wasn't locked. We clambered out into the empty, pre-dawn street. Chun was sobbing by then, clutching her badge so hard it dug grooves into her fingers. My radio sparked back to life the second my boots hit the asphalt, all at once as if nothing had ever happened. We never found the suspect. The official report? Suspect fled into storm drain system. Search called off due to hazardous conditions. If you look at the statistics, others have gone missing down there. Nobody ever finds remains, and not all the names are cops, or even in the system. There are gaps, names whispered at briefings, but never written down. The tunnel beneath Bayshore breathes, and it never really lets you out the same as you went in. I still hear that voice sometimes, my name, pitched up like a child's, echoing from bathroom drains or sidewalk gutters when I least expect it. I don't know what followed us back that morning, or if it's still waiting for something I can't name. But if anyone ever tells you they're going to chase a suspect down there, do them a favor, grab their arm, and don't let go. You only have to lose your way once to never come back whole. Ever wonder why the fog is so thick over the bay? You'd think by now people would stop chalking it up to temperature and humidity. Out on Gandhi Bridge, the fog shows up at times that don't make sense: starless, windless nights, or muggy dawns when it should have burned off hours ago. That's when you see them. Or more accurately, when you feel their eyes following you, right beneath the surface of the ordinary. I pulled over a Corolla halfway across the bridge one night, standard, right? Plates matched, woman behind the wheel, hands gripping 12 and 6 like she'd rehearsed it. Just a warning, I told myself, stepping out while my dashcam blinked to life. The fog rolled in almost instantly, as if it had been hiding under the concrete, waiting. The railings disappeared behind a wall of white. Within seconds, it was like floating in blankness. I'm used to odd weather. I'm not used to that cold, crawling sense of being observed. The woman's window came down, her face pale and nervous. I barely noticed, because my own reflection was wavering in the glass. Too many eyes, too much shadow where my features should be. My flashlight beam bounced off the mist, flashing a dozen strange glimmers beside the rail. I turned, squinting, thinking it was just passing cars or maybe a trick of the light. But the air stayed silent, no engines, no distant horns, no waves, just that suffocating quiet. Then I saw them, figures barely outlined, standing past the shoulder at regular intervals. Shoulder to shoulder, tall and utterly motionless. I swear, you could stand there for hours and never glimpse a face. Every instinct screamed at me, don't meet their gaze. Don't even pretend you're curious. Only their hands moved, rising as one to press against the rail, fingers too long, always twitching slightly. I felt my jaw clamp down, teeth buzzing with subsonic dread. The woman tried to roll her window up again. Do you see them? She whispered, the first honest thing any traffic stop has ever given me. I nodded, barely. Didn't dare look a second time. My mind replayed every shift briefing legend, every late night warning. Don't linger during the fog. Don't stop too long between the lights. Never look right at the one standing at the rail after 2 in the morning. The rules are old, passed around in half jokes and warnings you never want to test. All I could think about was how, on dashcam footage, those figures never appear. Just a thick blur, like thumbprints wiped across the lens. Whatever they are, they're old. Older than Gandhi. Older than Tampa, a collective memory every cop carries without knowing why. I handed the woman her registration, told her to keep driving and don't look back until she hit the lights at West Shore. She peeled off without a word, taillights fading into nothing. As I got into my cruiser, a single word came over the radio: my own name, hissed and brittle. When I looked up, the figures had taken a single step closer to the bridge, perfectly in sync. That was enough. I threw the car in drive and stayed beneath the speed limit all the way to the city line. Some say if you look hard enough, You'll see where one section of the railing is a different color, the spot where a cop once kept driving east and never spoke again. I don't know if that's true. All I know is, whenever the fog starts stretching across the bay, I keep my hands on the wheel, my eyes straight ahead, and my mouth shut until pavement gives way to regular city noise. There are worse things than getting pulled over at night, and I still feel those eyes somewhere behind me, even when the fog's been gone for hours. Before all this, before the mangroves, the motel, the tunnels, the bridges, I actually thought I could leave the job at the door. They tell you it's just paperwork, miles on your patrol car, half-heard confessions at the end of each shift. But the stories pile up. Every night on this beat, I lose something I used to take for granted. Real sleep, quiet mornings, the luxury of believing in coincidences. I triple-check windows. I wake up at 2 a.m., thinking I hear radios crackling with voices that aren't from this world. I started visiting my family less, kept my circles small, stopped answering numbers I didn't recognize. I can't cross Gandhi on a foggy morning or pass the old Harbolite exit without feeling like I'm a shadow away from disappearing myself. Maybe the creepiest thing is how normal it all starts, how quickly the line between ordinary city life and nightmare blurs. There's a cost to looking too closely. The city never really lets you go. Tampa doesn't forgive or forget the ones who peek behind the curtain. Sometimes I think the only comfort I have left are these stories, the act of sharing what I shouldn't know. It's a kind of superstition. If someone else hears it, maybe it can't hurt me as much. I get the sense, too, that something out there wants us to keep it quiet. Not all my files made it to this narration. There are dashcam tapes and bodycam footage I can't post. Not yet. The risk isn't just what's out there, but who's listening from the shadows, taking note of every detail I spill. So, that leaves me with you. Should I keep telling these stories? Should I risk shining a light where it was never meant to go? Tell me what you think in the comments. Drop your theories. Dig up your own pieces of Tampa's shadowy history. Maybe together we can map what they'd rather keep in the dark. Stay alert. Don't ignore the rules. Tampa is listening, and sometimes it listens back.